This and That, episode 136. In this episode I will be talking about something weird around that chemical spill in Ohio, China, Donbass, education, crazy story about energy, and then that conference that is taking place in the Arab world, some news around the trade of Russia and China, a few things around the green subject, and then some stuff from the US, and oh, what a fuck, that will make you laugh. It was hectic days these past few days. It's been a few days since I've done a news program, a combined news program, because the load shedding is really giving me a hard time and I'm struggling to keep up. And but I've done a few single subject Skidmarks and I'm quite happy with the responses that things are getting. It is seriously difficult for me to get my message out, but with your help, it seems to me that we are beginning to slip out from under that channel blanket, and the views is climbing and the subscriptions is climbing, and I appreciate every one of your contributions. But let's start as traditional with a photograph. This would typically be entered in a salon in a category for cityscapes or street photography, but for street photography there's got a problem because there's no human activity in it, and it's really not a landscape, although in many salons this will be accepted as a landscape. It is the shot is well done, it is very well composed, and the road leads your eye right into the back to that cathedral there. And I like the accent that this red brick building gives on the right hand side. So for me this will be an easy 8. And then, as has become tradition now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a slideshow. In this one we will be focusing on Alexander Pushkin's Trigarskaya estate. If you go there at sunset, you are likely to find yourself alone and wander along the park paths in almost complete silence, broken only by the rustle of the leaves in the wind. Some nice images, and I can just imagine the atmosphere there. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Beautiful place. And then we get to this chemical thing from America. This is something that you just need to take note of and think about it. Just think about these things. East Palestine strange coincidences. 2 weeks before the train derailed, the CDC edited the toxicology profile for vinyl chloride, which was previously adapted in 2006, 17 years ago. They seem to remove info on how the chemical impacts children and increase the concentration at which it causes heart problems from greater than 30,000 parts per million to 150,000 parts per million. Also, shortly before the crash, residents of East Palestine were given free digital IDs to track long-term health issues as part of an emergency response pilot program. East Palestine rolls out My ID program to help save lives. 3. Similar chemical-related disasters have occurred around the world and throughout America within weeks of this crash, Locations include Italy, Holland, Norway, Canada, Ohio, Houston, Michigan, Florida, Arizona, and more. However, this could be coincidental. We use lots of chemicals and accidents do happen, especially during societal collapse. Well, this is something that you just need to think about. And then the weird conduct from the Biden administration around this. These are things that makes you think. That's all. Just think about it. And then I read an article where there is a resolution at some international global place that toxic, contaminated earth should be confiscated by the state. Think about this. And Ohio is a major agricultural environment. Think food shortages. And then we get to China. Don't poke the Russian bear or Chinese panda as Russia's Parliament Committee announces formation of an anti-Western alliance led by Moscow and Beijing. Russia and Belarus are surrounded by European sanctions. China is also under some sanctions and being threatened with more. Sooner or later a Commonwealth will be formed. It has already begun to take shape. That was from the chairman of the Russian Parliament Committee on Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS. Earlier, China's analysts published a piece stipulating China may supply Russia with their weapons. This was a move that the Americans did not think will happen. But now they've got it. And then we get to the Donbass. And yeah, you guys know my opinion about it, and I'm going to try and keep calm. Ukraine shells civilian district in Russia's Bryansk region. As a result, a blaze broke out in a residential building. Currently, fire and rescue workers are working to extinguish the fire. There were no casualties. But take note, residential buildings. And then we have this, and this, I have done a skid mark on this. Banned Ukrainian petrol mines injure civilians in Donbass. Throughout the ongoing conflict, Ukraine has scattered banned petrol mines in the residential areas of Donetsk People's Republic. Artist Roman Kozarov visited the local hospital where he spoke to a child injured by the deadly weapon. This is something that the West will have to pay for at some stage. They want a war crime tribunal for the Russians. They are the guys that needs to be hauled in front of a war crime tribunal. They commit lots of war crimes. Now look at this. And I've done a skid mark on this. You can go and look at it. It is absolutely horrendous what those little plastic petrol mines are doing to children. And then we get to this interesting statement from Sakile Nyoko. People like Dr. Blade and Zamande were calling for people to get university degrees instead. Even today, leaders like Julius Malema keep saying we need people to get degrees. Vocational skills are what this country needs. Reopen vocational colleges and invest heavily in them. And this was based on a thing that the Chinese is producing so many artisans per year. Millions of them. But the clever ANC in South Africa has destroyed the education system, and the technical schools were one of the first things to go. And then we get to this, and I read it and I just smiled. China poses the biggest threat to Europe in gas market, International Energy Agency. The IEA called China the main threat to Europe's gas security, since according to the agency's forecast, China will increase gas imports at least 35% this year, and fuel purchases may exceed the record levels of 2021. All this will lead to increased competition and may provoke a sharp rise in gas prices, the experts concluded. And I must ask, Ursula von der Crazy must be extremely happy to hear this, because she was the one that fueled the fires of the Russian sanctions, and they were so happy to cut themselves off the Russian gas. And now they see China as a threat, because China's economy is picking up after their COVID stuff, and they are consuming. And because they are growing and consuming, they are now a threat. How's that? And then we get to this crazy shit. A 16-year-old Josh Alexander has been suspended from St. Joseph Catholic High School in Ontario, Canada, for protesting against transgender people's use of the bathrooms and for saying God created only two genders. The leadership in the school told him his continued attendance would be detrimental to the physical and mental well-being of transgender students. He tried to come back to class and got arrested for trespassing. What the hell is that? It seems to me that Canada has also lost the plot completely. And then this was something that I just shook my head in horror and disbelief. Spain decriminalizes sexual relations with animals as long as there is no physical injury that requires a veterinarian visit. How the hell does these things happen? How? And they hate Putin, because these things will not happen in Russia. I've said it many times, the Western Empire is going to collapse spectacularly, primarily because they lost their moral compass. And as if that is not enough, listen what happens in Germany. Sick world we live in. Germany had just signed a law which declares that incest no longer exists. That is to say, brothers and sisters can get married, mothers can get married to their sons, and fathers to their daughters. And then this guy made a remark. Imagine the gene fallout on this. I am not going to say much about that because I'll swear too much. And then we've got this from Germany. We don't want German tanks to fire on great-grandchildren of Russian women and men. Have you forgotten German history? This is by that leader of that leftist party in Germany. And then this guy asked, you won't see this on MSM, but the Germans are boiling. And I am glad that the Germans are showing signs of waking up. And then we get to this, and this is really important. Yesterday, several senior Arab lawmakers visited Syria to end the chaos unleashed on the prosperous country for the last 12 years. Under the US leadership, the brutal proxy war conspiracy involved Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, Jordan, Israel, UK, France, and more. And it seems to me that those Arab nations has come to the conclusion that that war has run its course and it must end now. And Turkey supports that. And I have said it in a previous Skidmark, if the Arab nations sort this Syria thing out between themselves and they get to a place where you can say they have peaceful coexistence, the Israelis better sit up straight and take note, because they are going to be in trouble. And then we get to this. China triples coal imports from Russia. In the first 40 days of 2023, China more than tripled coal imports from Russia through the critical Zabaikalsk, Manchuria border checkpoint, the Russian Consulate General in Harbin said. According to the Consulate General, more than 6,200 wagons of coal were exported through this border checkpoint. The total volume exceeded 438,000 tons, a 214% increase over the same period. Yeah, it seems to me Russia is struggling. And then there was this, and I smiled. Italy kills off the wicked green initiative. The Italian government has scrapped the climate-friendly tax credit program, claiming it cost more than 110 billion euros and led to widespread fraud, according to the finance minister. We have decided to stop the effects of a wicked policy that has benefited a few citizens, but has placed a burden on each of us from the cradle onwards. 2,000 euros per head. The Super Bonus 110 initiative entitled homeowners to a tax credit of up to 110% on upgrading their homes. The program has led to a surge in home renovations, boosting Italy's economic activity. However, it was revealed that $4.6 billion of fraud had been linked to the scheme. Makes me think that Italy is not so much different than South Africa. These guys may have backdoor connections with the ANC. And then this, I don't know. Why billionaires are obsessed with blocking out the sun. Last week at the Munich Security Conference, George Soros took the stage to talk about the existential risk that climate change poses to human civilization. And the 92-year-old Hungarian-American billionaire preferred method for dealing with it, brightening the clouds over the Arctic to reflect solar energy away from melting the ice caps. But questions about whether Soros, who is ridiculously malaligned in a right-wing conspiracy circles, is the best advocate of solar geoengineering. He is not the only billionaire who has recently become interested in it. And as I said on Twitter, fuck around with nature and find out. And then we get to this, and this is something that I read about it about 4 or 5 years ago. And I thought to myself, this can't turn out well. Now look at this. Super pigs are attacking the US. Hybrid monsters from Canada are tunneling under the snow to infiltrate the north of the country. Late last century, wild boars and common pigs were crossed in Canada to get more meat. The result of the crossbreeding was a giant, incredibly intelligent and elusive beast weighing up to 300 kilograms. Mutants cause enormous damage to the environment. They eat crops, destroy trees and kill turkeys, deer and elk. And in addition, the animals contaminate water, spread disease and pose a risk to human health and safety. Now, those pigs are huge. I've seen photographs, a lot of photographs of them. Those things are massive. And I have got a good experience with pigs. Those things are very dangerous. But this is what you get, breeding wild pigs and domesticated pigs, crossbreeding them. And then we get this from the US. A neuroscientist explains why stupidity is an existential threat to America. It may sound like an insensitive statement, but the cold hard truth is that there are a lot of stupid people in the world, and their stupidity presents a constant threat to humanity. That is true. And then we get to Palestine. The water in East Palestine is safe to drink, just like the water was safe to drink in Flint, just like the air was safe to breathe after 9/11. While other countries build bullet trains, America chose to upgrade their crumbling trains by spending $800 billion a year on weapons. And I have spoken about that previously. And then we get to this, and this is something that makes me so angry. And the Americans are going to get their day of paying for their things. Listen to this, and this is a blast from the past. The death of 500,000 Iraqi children was a very difficult decision, but we believe the price is worth it. Madeleine Albright. Let that sink in. They killed 500,000 Iraqi children. That is the wonderful United States of America. And then we get to a what a fuck moment, and you can look at that, and I just could not leave this out. Pestilence idiots now turned Ukraine idiots. Where have you been the last 20 years? While the US dropped 337,000 bombs on Syria, Yemen, Iraq, Somalia, Pakistan and Afghan. Something to think about. Please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing, and I thank you for your support.